whistleblowers are agents of justice, but in South Africa, they are more likely to be persecuted and assassinated than honoured and protected. But civil society has had enough. We speak to Robby Mokgalaka of groundWork. Welcome, Robby.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. I greet all the viewers. Thank you.
How many civil society organizations have now joined forces to demand protection from government for whistleblowers?
Yeah, now we are currently having 27 organizations that have joined, in to support this cause. I remember the name of this gathering is called HRD, Human Rights Defenders Gathering. So as you can see, it's written, defend our defenders. This is an inclusive process. It includes whistleblowers. It includes the activists who are affected in the mining areas, those communities that are staying in the mining affected areas, and also the LGBTIQ. So those different categories are within the human rights defenders, and whistleblowers, of course, are within that group of human rights defenders.
Can you name some of the organizations that have become involved to support human rights defenders?
Yeah, at this point in time, just to name but few, we have Greenpeace. Greenpeace is known as an international organization. We have Human Rights Watch, which is an international organization as well. We also have groundWork, of course. We have Earthlife Africa. We have Center for Environmental Rights. We also have the Office of the South African Human Rights Commission that is also supporting this. The list is very long. So just to name but few at the moment.
Now, you've drawn up a memorandum for government. What does the memorandum say?
Yeah, the demand in the memorandum, there are just two objectives, that we're asking the government to consider. And those objectives, number one, is the development of the model law that seeks to recognize and protect human rights defenders. Of course, we just spoke about the whistleblowers now. Of course, it needs to protect them. And also the second leg, it's for the government to take initiative and create or develop an awareness campaign to discourage the killings of the human rights defenders. Now, the third one is the immediate arrest or urgent arrest of those killers. And of course, the law must take its course, and it has to make sure that whatever decision that has been made in court, whatever decision that is made in court by the courts, whichever forum that is actually making a decision, it has to make sure that it sends a message that whistleblowers are a significant part of the society. They are protecting the rights of the vulnerable groups and the poor communities on the ground.
Why do you think government has been so slow to come to the aid of whistleblowers?
I think it's just a matter of political will, Chris. It's a political will, but we are glad that South Africa has received recommendations at the United Nations level on their Universal Periodic Review last year in November, whereby the member states within the Human Rights Council in the sitting, they passed recommendation to South Africa to protect human rights defenders, to develop legislations which seeks to protect human rights defenders. Of course, whistleblowers were quoted now and then. So in those recommendations. So now the important part is that South Africa adopted those recommendations. They voted in support of those recommendations, which is very important. We are saying the government is doing the right thing. It's recognizing and respecting the lives of the people and the constitutional rights of the people to life. So we are working with the government. That we just want to join forces with the government to say, let's help each other to implement this, to develop these laws, implement as a team, as a collective. And because we know better, we see what is happening on the ground, we can make inputs in those legislations that are actually making an impact on the ground.
Speaking about being on the ground, can you give me some examples examples of the worst cases of human rights defenders being persecuted?
I can quote but few. There are a couple of them. One of them is, I can just talk about the Abahlali Basemjondolo. This a grassroots organization. It's a grassroots organization that is fighting for the land rights all over the country. And it was formed in 2009. Up to so far, they've lost about 25 members, shot and killed in execution style. So now, only 3 of them have seen justice. So you can imagine how many people are left out there lingering and not being arrested, and maybe planning to do even more, more damage within the society. So now, that is just a collective case that I can actually quote. But the second one is it's about the activist that was killed, Mamfikile Nchangase, who was killed in the KZN area within the Mduba, whereby she was opposing the expansion of the Somkele coal mine. So she was killed in her own house by 5 men in front of a 13-year-old nephew. Cold blood. So that's one example. That is, she was killed, and I think it was in 2020, October 22. Now, the second case is the Bazuka Hadebe. That was one activist who was opposing to an MRC Australian mining company, which was aiming to dig out, I think, titanium. He was also killed in his own house by 2 men, if I'm not mistaken, but who were imposing themselves as police officers in his own house in front of his 7-year-old. So these cases, they are not just happening in isolation, like someone is killed somewhere in the bush or being run over, but it's happening in their own houses, whereby they're supposed to be feeling safe. And now it's leaving a lot of emotional traumas to those family members that are left behind. So some of them are breadwinners. I'm talking about Mamfikile Nchangase. She left her the only daughter. And now she doesn't have someone else to support her because she lost her father before. A couple of months before her mother, and the mother got killed. Now she's actually an orphan. She doesn't have parents. So she doesn't have any support. So there's a lot of impact that we can talk about as the psychosocial impact that we can talk about that are affecting those family members on the ground. And that need to be earthed and spoken about. Fortunately, we have her daughter here so that she can talk about those impacts of how has this affected her life. The world needs to know that it's not about one person dying, but it's about affecting the entire family members on the ground.
Are you speaking to people who are telling you, we want to speak truth to power, we want to come forward and expose wrongdoing, but we are too afraid?
Well, I think we haven't received any person so far. Remember, this is most of these cases are more of hiring a hitman, and hitmen are member of the society on the ground. So they have eyes and ears, friends. So the moment one person speaks out and say, I want to reveal or I want to tell who actually did what, that person might disappear. So people are fearing for their lives, even if they know they cannot just come out and speak, because they don't know who they need to avoid or protect themselves against. Is just a ghost out there. So I think there are people who want to talk, who knows what has happened and who committed a crime or killed those people, but they can't just easily come out. That's the problem.
Have you had any engagement as a group with government apart from this memorandum that you have drawn up?
We have engaged with the government. That was immediately after Mamfikile Nchangase was killed. We have engaged with the government at the provincial level within KZN, whereby we're calling for the government to hasten the investigation process, and arrest the killers, because the entire community of Somkele and Fuleni is now living in fear if the culprit is not arrested. So they don't know who was killed here. They don't know if this person is part of the community or is from outside. So they are living in that kind of an uncertain atmosphere, of fear. That's the kind of situation that I can talk about to say, it's very complicated. It's very sophisticated indeed.
Any other cases that you would like to highlight, Robby?
One of the cases that I can highlight, of course, I mean, we cannot leave Babita Deokaram on this. We cannot leave those whistleblowers, Mashale, the lady that we were just talking about now. The problem that we have now is that I think we just need, a special laws or model laws that can facilitate the protection of the human rights defenders, and as a collective. Shouldn't be only, just a small part of the government like the police, but it should be the entire government in total. Let's just say, for instance, the DMRE. We're talking about the mining areas, which is the DMRE for sort of regulate or foresees or monitors. So how those mining companies are receiving permissions and how they are being given permission or permits to mine need to be regulated, need to be done in a way that you consider people on the ground. The government need to come closer to the people on the ground, and the government need to make sure that those people that are affected, there's a follow-up in those families as well, to see how what kind of impact are having are left in those families. So there's a whole lot of layers that need to be attended to, and by different parties, stakeholders. But the government takes a lead in this because they have a constitutional obligation to protect its own citizens. So everyone else that comes on board is just an assistant, and that assistant is the human rights defenders, and they need to be protected.
Thank you. That was Robby Mokgalaka of groundWork speaking to BizNews about the urgent need for human rights defenders to be defended. Thank you, Robby.
Thank you so much, Chris.